I wouldn't like to change so much the way we live as what we live in and how we live in it.
Frank Lloyd Wright's innovations on the interior of the home, along with technological and cultural advancements, have made the open floor plan one of the most desired architectural features of today.
Throughout history, the less complex a home was, the less exceptionally it was perceived. Wealthy people and royalty lived in stately homes with endless sprawls of rooms and decor, while poorer, more common folk would often live in single-room homes that served as shelter and not much more. When settlers came to America, they brought with them these same expectations that had been commonplace both in Europe as well as to Native Americans. Not only were they architecturally constrained by social norms, but also by the engineering abilities and functions the home served at that time. Most 17th century English colonial houses were only able to be one room deep due to the roofing technology used at the time. The usage of thatch as the main roofing material meant that roofs had to be very steep in order to keep rain and snow from seeping into the home. This in turn meant that the larger your home went outwards, the taller your roof would have to be, very quickly becoming an impossible or near impossible task. One of the most prevalent deters of a more open floor plan was and is the ability to heat the space that has been created. In a time when the fireplace was the easiest and most common way to heat a home, having large open spaces was extraordinarily undesirable because almost all heat produced would be lost. The containment that came with both single-room small homes as well as grand homes with many walls within was not only stylistic but also a conscious necessity to keep its occupants warm. Air conditioning would not be invented until 1902, and even then, not with human comfort in mind. For these reasons, the homes built at this time were very climate-specific. A home built for a New England winter would not be replicated to withstand a Georgia summer. Along with protection from the elements, walls provided privacy between families as well as separation between the servants and owners of a home. Hired help was a common occurrence for both middle and upper-class families alike. Because of this, homes of almost all sizes included their kitchen in the back of the house, away from living areas, to keep views of labor to a minimum. In larger homes, these kitchens would often lead directly to servants' quarters for live-in, full-time domestic helpers.
Until the American Revolution, domestic architecture in the United States typically featured compact, symmetrical design. Following the Revolution, a simple, classical style was adopted. It wasn't until after the Civil War that the open floor plan became widely used. This change is largely attributed to Frank Lloyd Wright.
Victorian architecture, the buildings were mostly square or rectangular, and the rooms were square or rectangular, and you had boxes within boxes, rooms within interior space. He's the guy that he said that when I designed the Hillside building, which was built in 1903, which is also at Spring Green, he said when I designed the Hillside building, he said I broke the box of Victorian architecture.
Frank Lloyd Wright believed that American architecture should be entirely different from that of Europe. In 1867, when Wright was born, houses of traditional European style were very common. Traditional European architecture features a compact, multi-story design. Victorian-style homes are a common example of domestic European architecture. Homes with a Victorian design have many closed-off rooms and spaces. This is the type of architecture that Wright wanted to break away from. Frank Lloyd Wright's most prominent achievement was developing a new style of domestic architecture called Prairie Style. This type of architecture features flat roofs, long horizontal lines, and an interior centered around a chimney. One of the most famous examples of this style is Wright's Roby House. In reference to the Frederick C. Roby House, Wright stated, "The prairie has a beauty of its own, and we should recognize and accentuate this natural beauty, its quiet level, hence gently sloping roofs, low proportions, quiet skylines, suppressed heavy-set chimneys, and sheltering overhangs, low terraces, and outreaching walls sequestering private gardens." The Roby House is a unique design that includes all aspects of Wright's signature style. One unique aspect of Wright design that is displayed in the Roby House is the integration of nature into the interior of the home. There were two main ways that Wright accomplished this.
You use common building materials inside and out. So for example, if you go to a lot of Wright buildings, the outside will be made out of a particular stone, and then when you walk inside, you'll notice that the walls will be made out of the same type of stone.
The second way Wright brought nature into the home was with large amounts of glass. The Roby House includes many windows, which allow for light to reach indoors, as well as the scenery of the surrounding area.
One thing Wright felt important was the clean lines of his art. He disliked radiators or other systems that may have been necessary but unsightly. For this reason, he took inspiration from ondol, an ancient way of heating the home invented in Korea, in which stones underneath the floor are heated by a fire, making the floor warm. Wright took this idea of radiant heat and made it possible for his homes by piping hot water underneath the floorboards in his designs. He called this gravity heat. Being from Wisconsin, Wright struggled with the heat of Arizona when he would live at Taliesin West in the winters. He designed the building to keep a comfortable temperature on its own, without air conditioning. His original designs had the home built with translucent canvas overhead to keep out the harsh sun while also letting the breeze flow through, keeping the building a comfortable temperature. As Wright grew in popularity, servants became less and less commonplace. The many women that had made up the population of domestic employees in America started working towards rights for themselves and all women, greatly diminishing the workforce that had been formed by a repressive culture. This gave Wright the opportunity to have diversity in his domestic architecture as he designed both homes with servant areas and homes very much without. His Seth Peterson cottage, which was built almost 50 years after the Roby House, was built to be inhabited only by the owners of the home. Its petite size, along with the wishes of Seth Peterson himself, make for a more flowing space. While the flowing open style, like that of the Seth Peterson cottage, dates back as far as ancient Roman times, the open floor plan did not begin to appear regularly in domestic architecture until Wright. As far as great American architects go, Frank Lloyd Wright has been one of the most influential on the individual people of our nation. His innovations on the floor plan itself, as well as the technology of the home, have inspired millions of people. Even today, many homes include aspects which originated in Wright's designs. Most homes today include either air conditioning, some kind of heating, or both. These capabilities have allowed people more artistic freedom in the design of their house, as accounting for the location's climate is not very necessary. While today you might see very similar houses in Minneapolis and Los Angeles, without modern climate controlling capabilities, those houses would be much too hot or cold. Full-time domestic help in today's America is something reserved for the uber-rich. While there are some modern examples of architecture that kept such household workers in mind, it is not part of most people's experience. This major drop in households utilizing domestic help has made kitchens a central, dynamic part of the home, not one that's hidden away. Because families are cooking their own meals, it's a common choice to make the kitchen very open and central, so that whoever's making a meal is able to entertain guests, converse with the rest of their family, or do other such social tasks simultaneously.
The open plan home has come to be one of the most widespread terms and trends in the home design of the past decades. In modern day, it is common for a home to have many windows and connection to the outdoors through natural design. This free-flowing nature of the open plan was made possible by changing social norms along with new inventions in heating and cooling. The wealthiest people have continued making large, extravagant homes, but they're no longer filled with petite individual rooms. The open plan is possibly even more apparent in these larger homes due to the sheer length of floor bare of any division. While some trends of today contradict Wright's specific ideas on how rooms should flow, the precedent he set lives on.
That the box was a fascist symbol and the architecture of freedom, of democracy, needed something beside the box. So I started out to destroy the box as a building.